EVO. This series contains adult language and depictions of graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, welcome back, Devil Within listeners, to another bonus episode of The Devil Within Satan's Shadow. I apologize for it being a few days late. I was traveling. As many of you noticed and pointed out in the comments that the recording quality wasn't quite up to snuff. I get it, okay? I was in a small hotel room in New York, and I did my best with what I had.
Jeez,
I'm sorry.
People are relentless. Jeez.
Gosh. But I'm excited because we're into the bonus episodes. We got through the main part of the story, and then there were things that, didn't kind of fit into the narrative that I'd come up with. And so that's what's great about podcasting. You get to be nimble and move on your feet. And here we go. We're doing some bonus episodes. And I'm in a much better mood writing and researching the bonus episodes because they're so much more hopeful. And there's so much.
Okay.
Oh yeah. The main episodes were dragging me down with all of the violence and all of the hell stuff and all that, and then just the language that Dante uses in Purgatory, and imagine what it gets to when we're in paradise. It's even more lofty and more inspirational. But just as I'm sure you heard when we were in the episode, just the repeated refrain that none of what these people are going through is permanent, right?
Yeah.
That whereas everything in hell that's it forever, eternity, unchanging. Like no. So anyway, we'll get into all that. But
yes.
But so how are you, Margot? Because we're again joined by Margot Carmichael, the host of Death by Southwest, which if you're not listening to, again, you should. It's a great show and it needs a larger audience and it deserves a larger audience. So Margot, again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. What are we calling these? Like the bonus to the bonus?
All right. That's a little too meta for me, but sure.
Yeah.
Bonus to the bonus. Yes. Bonus squared, bonus prime. I don't know.
I liked this episode a lot. This was like the courtroom stuff, law stuff fascinates me. 300 years ago when I started college as an undergrad, I started pre-law and quickly was like, no, I can't party enough as a pre-law student. So I'm not going to do this. But I really like this. I really liked hearing all of this. I didn't love within the first 4 minutes, the news clip. He says oral copulation. And that just I don't know. I just don't
on the
like
news,
it.
on the nightly news.
Yeah. It was it felt out of place.
And that's funny because that stood out to me as well, right? Did he say forced oral copulation or not? Because in other things I read, that those were some of the charges. Forced oral copulation.
Now I'm going to have to go back and see. I don't think so, but I just wrote down oral copulation just because, everything he's saying is terrible, all these crimes and stuff. But that, for some reason, was maybe it was forced oral copulation.
Well, it would have to be, or it wasn't a crime, I guess.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he went there.
Oof. I liked it. It was a good way to start the episode with the news clip. It was effective. It drew you right in. Okay. And it was interesting hearing how a celebrity, he was so into the camera, how you said he always knew where the camera was. And I thought it was super telling about us as a people that were just so fascinated with terrible things, like a car crash. You can't look away. And then do you think that he was did he in his head, was he this is my moment and I'm going to wear the sunglasses and do that purposefully, or he was just kind of inherently kind of a theatrical dude? But this was he's putting it on.
That's a great question. We don't know. I think that he was coached that way by his attorneys. Okay. That's what I think. That's what I would do if I were defending someone like that, right? And give them the best chance for like, jury nullification, or getting one person on the jury to like fall in love with him or whatever, or to think, oh, this guy, there's no way he could do it. Look at how cool and suave and LA he is.
Yeah.
Glasses, he had the suit, and he found a way to even strut like in leg irons. Like you could see video of him walking into the courtroom. I'm like, he looks kind of cool,
Oh my
despite
gosh.
all of it. Yeah. And and they cleaned him up. They made him look presentable, and then he would have the swastika, or the pentagram on his hand, and he would say, "Hail Satan" to the fucking prospective jury pool.
Do you think, I know that we don't know, I mean, like, I guess we know that he is convicted. I know we don't know that in this episode, but just like from being alive and hearing about him. Do you think that did play a role? I know that he was convicted. So if the jury like loved him, then he would probably not be convicted. But do you think that it made it difficult for any of the jurors? The fact that he was so like walking in cool and looked cool. I mean, it would have to, right?
Maybe in the hands of a lesser prosecuting attorney, right?
Okay.
Who just constantly reminded the jury of what they were, of what was at stake. Right. And with all of the evidence that they had, and with all of the witnesses, and all of the brutality of the crimes. Okay.
Right.
Whenever there would be some theatrics from the Ramirez side, he could just hold up, remember Exhibit C? This is the mutilated remains of this person. So
that's true.
If you're getting a little starstruck because he's a celebrity serial killer, come back down to fucking earth and do your jobs.
Celebrity serial killer. It's such a fucked up phrase, and only here.
Only here, and probably only here in LA. I don't even think in New York they would put up with that,
Celebrity serial killer. This just came into my brain. Do we get to know any of the jurors throughout these bonus episodes? Like,
No.
Do you know anything about them, or not really? Is that not public information?
Not really. I think you could probably find it. I don't know if any of them wrote books or anything like that. Like a lot of people.
You would think if you were on the jury for Richard Ramirez, I would write a book.
Yeah. Yeah, I probably would too. But no, I haven't really. I didn't really find it that interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
They were good and decent, public servants, did their civic duty and did it well, and came to the right conclusion, in my opinion, and I like to think that then they just didn't want to sensationalize it or make a buck off of it, and just went back to their normal lives, Maybe I'm wrong.
I just sit in a courtroom for 8 months and like was worried about my life being potentially like threatened.
Yeah,
I would definitely try to make money and write a book, and like,
yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe not, but I know that's not a popular opinion, but like, are you kidding? 8 months of my life, I have to be in this courtroom, and every time I leave, I'm worried somebody's going to maybe murder me. That was a good cliffhanger at the beginning.
And they were sequestered too, so they didn't even get to go home. They were like staying in some hotel the whole time.
Yeah, that's
right.
I mean,
and then except for one who decided to go home for a second, and then
that was shocking.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
I liked reading up on voir dire because I hadn't really read into the jury selection process in a long time, and
I didn't know that it was called that, and I didn't know, outside of what I've seen on Law and Order, I didn't really know what it entailed. But before we get to voir dire, I have to comment on your name drop. When you were the second you started telling the story, and you were like, my youngest was in this acting class, and this like motorcade like showed up, and I was like, oh, who's it gonna be? Who's he gonna name drop here? And then you said Eric Garcetti, and I was like, who's that?
Yeah. Well, it was one of those things. It was weird because, in living in LA, right? Every couple of blocks, not every couple of blocks, maybe like every mile on the city streets, there's a sign that tells you who your council member is, who your council person is. Okay. And so for years, I would see his name, Eric Garcetti, like, right. It was by my gym in Hollywood. It was by this pizzeria I'd always go to. Right. So like like I said, we were the same age, and I just kind of grew up in Hollywood knowing that if I ever needed to complain about shit, which I never did, like if someone says, call your councilman, like he would have been the guy. Right? No, but living through some of the big trials out here, okay, you knew his dad's name really, really well. Gil Garcetti was everywhere. Because what I cover in the next episode is his ascension to the Attorney General of Los Angeles, right? Excuse me, the District Attorney of Los Angeles.
Right.
And so you knew the name Gil Garcetti. So his son, a Nepo baby, but wasn't his choice, but he really capitalized on his last name because his dad was, impartial. He was didn't have a political party. You can't when you're, justice is blind, all that. If you look up Gil Garcetti, even on his Wikipedia, it'll say unaffiliated with regard to a political party. Okay. Because that's you had to maintain that impartiality. And then, but so then Eric, man, he capitalized and then some, and from,
good for him.
Councilman, right? And then the mayor. And so, and my kid, my daughter, she didn't know who this girl was, whatever. Right. They were just friends. Sure. They were in Wizard of Oz together. One was a Tin Man, one was a Scarecrow, right? So they were friends. But then when he rolls up, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm just sitting in my car. It's not like I ran out and said, hey, Eric. No, I'm like, oh, cool. The mayor's kid must be in class, right? And then they walk out together. And I still don't know who she is. But then the security guards walk up to her with the dad. I'm like, oh, wow, pretty cool. And then I still didn't do anything. But then my daughter's like, hey, Dad, guess what? Her dad's the mayor. I'm like, oh, cool, great. And so then we met, and that was it. And that was cool. And then we would see each other sometimes. But then it's not like we were friends at all. That was a much longer intro than I expected to get to Gil Garcetti. But I like coming at things not in a vacuum, right? I like coming at an angle, right, where it's personal or where it makes sense or where there's a time. Right.
It makes it way more interesting and way more like, I don't know, not relatable because I don't necessarily relate to that, but it's like,
oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know. Right. It feels more
instead of just saying Gil Garcetti was the right. No,
exactly. Instead of making it just like a social studies lesson, it's like a personal story. Then
exactly. There's a segue.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good. I'll look forward to learning more about Gil Garcetti because it sounds like his grandfather. Well, the grandfather being hanged. During the Mexican Revolution, like that sounds like a crazy.
He was an Italian judge who came to Mexico to
Yeah, that's cool.
To clean stuff up. Not cool because
yes, it was not.
Right, didn't quite work out for them. Yeah, but Gil made it, and they came here, and it's a success story. Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to that. Why was Ramirez dissatisfied with his first lawyers? Do we know? Like what you said in the episode is that he, after whatever, who were his first lawyers? Alan Adashek and Henry Hall.
Yeah.
And so 5 weeks or something like that, they were his lawyers. And then he went to the judge and was like, I don't want these lawyers anymore. Do we have any idea why? Or he just didn't like them?
He didn't like them. He didn't like, probably, I guess, maybe that they were white, right? And he would want to get some Latino flavor on his side of the courtroom.
Sense.
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then he got Gallegos.
Yeah, which was a disaster.
Yes. The one who shot at a prostitute.
The one that was convicted by a jury of his peers for attempted murder. And then somehow.
I literally have written down what? How?
Yeah. Like, so he gets a hearing in front of the California Bar Association, and they determine that he didn't act with criminal malice, even though he was convicted. So he should still be able to practice law in the state of California.
Oh my God.
I'm like, okay, cool. That's a good ass lawyer, I guess. But he's had a lot of baggage, and so Ramirez's sister, Ramirez's sister swooped in and said, don't worry, I got the guys for you.
Right. And do we know, how did she find these guys? Where did they come from?
I bet they listen, with cases like this, people are coming.
People are volunteering.
Exactly. Yeah. They just came out of the woodwork because they know it's going to be televised. They know that, it's going to be, there's going to be money from the state to try it. It's not, they're going to be doing it pro bono. There's, public defender money available and all that. So
and they have the same last name, but no relation.
No relation. Yes.
Yeah, voir dire. That was cool. So I never heard I've watched every single episode of every Law and Order twice. And I swear I've never heard that term. But you know what's really funny? Shit, I can't remember what it was. I was watching, it was probably Law and Order, honestly, one of the new ones last week after I listened to this. And I heard them say voir dire. And I was like, what the? I mean, what, 20 years I've been watching Law and Order? I've never heard that term ever in my life. I'm sure they've said it, but I just never like clocked it because I didn't know what it was. And so it was really cool to like hear it. And I was like, oh, I know what that means.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Great movies. Runaway Jury was a great movie, great book by Grisham, great movie. The Verdict, great movie. 12 Angry Men, all these movies that deal with jurors in a jury room and what goes on back there are really, really fascinating.
There's literally a movie that I just watched on HBO a couple of weeks ago, a month ago. I don't know. It's new and it's called Juror Number 12.
It's a Clint Eastwood film. Yeah.
Yes. It was great.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Great.
They must have said that word in this word in that movie. And I still was like, never heard this word in my life ever.
Right.
You explained it really well.
Thank you.
Like sounds like a very, I mean, French, it sounds like, oh God, what's this going to be? But you explained it well.
Truth. Yeah. It's such an important part of the trial process.
And so cool. It's like a fucking chess match.
Yeah.
Trying to like, I don't know. I mean,
what was great in Runaway Jury, it's a movie about
who's in that?
John Cusack,
Runaway Jury. Have I seen
Gene Hackman, I think, because there are specialists that both sides will hire that are only there for jury selection. They can read people's faces, they read gestures, facial tics. Because the dangerous thing is someone lying to get onto a jury.
Right.
Everybody lies to get off a jury. Everyone says, "Oh, hardship, financial, blah, 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 blah."
Yes.
The people that lie to get onto a jury are the activists that are trying to do something one way or the other. And so, Runaway Jury was about a gun trial, right? Where a guy, I mean, before there were tons of mass shootings in America,
right?
The opening was very jarring, right? It was a disgruntled lawyer brings a gun into work on his law firm and just starts shooting people up. Okay. And victims decide to sue the gun manufacturer. Okay. And it could like change the course of blah, 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 whatever.
Right.
And so it's a huge, huge case. And John Cusack is a gun control activist, but no one knows it. Okay. And so there's a brilliant scene. He wants on the jury really, really bad. Okay. But he tells the judge he can't do it. He's prejudiced. And the judge says, "No, why are you prejudiced?" "Well, because guns scare me." "Sorry, too bad." And then he says, "But I have a previous commitment that I really can't miss." And the judge says, "What is it?" And he says that it's like some video game tournament. Okay. Right. And he's very serious about how important, but the judge says, "Too bad, you're on the jury." Okay. So now he's on the jury. And it's so interesting how his character is manipulating everybody in there, right? Because he's trying to see who's on his side, because he's not the foreman. His next job was try to become the jury foreperson, and that didn't happen, right?
Okay.
But so he's trying to usurp that person's kind of authority and undermine it. And one of the main things that he checks in on every few days is when you sneeze, whoever in the jury room says, "God bless you," is on your side. That's one of the tells that you learn.
Whoa.
People, right? Yeah. That people who say "God bless you" when you sneeze are generally inclined to side with you in your arguments. Okay. So that kind of shit is amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. And then there's this great movie, 12 Angry Men, directed by Sidney Lumet. I think, either late 50s or early 60s. And it's brilliant because just the way that he shot it, right? As the movie goes along, he gets tighter and tighter lenses to kind of increase the feeling of claustrophobia that these guys are feeling in this small jury room, and how badly they just want to get. Yeah. And it's so great. And then there's a great episode of Happy Days where the Fonz is on a jury. It's amazing.
Oh my God. Jesus, your brain. It's really, you and Mark have that same thing, and it always blows me away. I watched a movie last week. I'm sure I watched several movies. I couldn't tell you what. I couldn't tell you a line from the movie. I couldn't tell you where it took place. Like I couldn't tell you anything. And I love movies. Mark sees a movie once 20 years ago and could tell you 10 of the top lines from the movie. And you're the same way.
Yeah.
So weird. I mean, it's cool. It's so weird.
And the interesting thing with voir dire are the peremptory challenges. I think each side got like 5 or 6. We could just say, absolutely not. This person's not on the jury. No questions asked. Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it took 6 months.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Like
every
day?
Yeah, every day. 8 hours. There was just they went through 1,600 prospective jurors, right?
Oh,
because there are people who actually have financial hardship, can't do it. Okay, great, you're out. Okay, then there are people who are like, I have a serious problem with the death penalty. I could not convict if it means I'm responsible for someone dying. That's a real thing, right? There are people, anyone religious would probably have a challenge for that. Say, I will feel like I'm a murderer. Okay. And you can't tell someone what's in their heart isn't legit, So, and then you have people go, yeah, I'm desperate to fucking kill somebody. I just want to know what that feels like. Okay, no, sorry, we don't want you either. Okay, right. So,
have you been on a jury?
No, I've never been on jury. Nope.
Me either.
I found out after the death of my paternal grandmother, right, that she had been a part of a grand jury in New Hampshire for like most of her adult life.
What?
And they're secret. Like grand juries are secret, and you're not supposed to tell anybody. And so we never knew that. Like, once every couple months, she would sit with like 10 or 12 other people, and they would decide whether or not to bring charges against an alleged criminal. Yeah.
How cool. That's so unfortunate that you found out after.
Yeah. But she couldn't tell me anyway. Grand juries are grand juries are secret. Yeah.
Like to your grave, you have to take that?
You're supposed to, and she was a trustworthy person.
Yeah. So how'd you find out then?
The journal or entry or something like that,
cool.
Letters that she left. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the last thing. No, it's not the last thing, but like I don't know. Do you believe that you can actually find an impartial jury, especially in a case like this? Like,
man,
everybody has heard of this. Everybody's been following this. It's bullshit if they say they haven't. They have. And everybody has formed some kind of an opinion prior to this.
So you're right. You're right. So the ridiculous questions are, like, are you aware of the case? Yes. Could you be impartial? Sure. Really? Really, you can be impartial, but they got enough people that they said they could. They tried to, the change of venue like they did with OJ, right? So, but it went from LA to Simi Valley, which is 20 minutes away.
Right.
So you don't even have to change the channel to get the same, like their local news is the LA news, right? So what
does that even do? That's pointless.
Right. You're getting the same people. It just went to a much wider area. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Not the OJ trial. Forgive me. The Rodney King trial. The Rodney King trial, they changed the venue to Lily White, Simi Valley. And lo and behold, there's an acquittal. And then the city burned to the ground in riots in 92. But then,
I remember.
So the OJ trial, they didn't want to change the venue. Okay. Because, and then that was a big mistake. They should have, because they were able to get juries that just went, you know what? I don't care what's going on. That was a classic case of jury nullification. And also the prosecutors weren't anywhere near as effective as Halpin was during the Ramirez trial, right? They were kind of fumbling around. There's a lot of books about it, about how badly the prosecutors messed up on the OJ trial. So, yeah. But so anyway, so I to answer your question, no, I don't think that there was ever a chance of a totally impartial jury that Well, I hadn't been inundated with the gory details of the case for the past year. Yeah.
Absolutely
Couldn't find
impossible.
anyone in LA that didn't know everything about it. So
Right.
yeah.
How about the lawyer that just like straight up stopped showing up? Like he was just like working at McDonald's. I don't feel like going anymore, and just
I
like
don't know
didn't come.
why that was allowed. He just stopped
Like,
showing up to work to the point where his partner needed 2 weeks off for nervous exhaustion.
I'm
Right?
sorry, that was
It was like,
funny.
okay, yeah, go rest.
I need 2 weeks off for
Yeah,
nervous exhaustion.
yeah.
But like, just stop showing up. How is he not like? Okay, well, if he's not going to show up, then he's not on this case anymore. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't show
It
up to
felt
work.
like
Yeah.
very like for such a high profile case, it felt like a little bit like kind of like duct taped together at this point, like with
On the defense side, definitely.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't know if I ever asked you this in the other episodes, but the defense brought up how inconsistent like the MO was.
Yep.
Like maybe it was different people. I don't know if I ever asked you that. Do you ever think that maybe some of his murders weren't his murders?
I don't know. I really don't know, but so the defense called the title of their defense was SODI, SODDI. Some other dude did it. Okay, that's what they were presenting to the jury. Okay.
Okay.
And because of he was all over the map with regards to MO and with victimology and all of that. I mean, it was unique in serial killers. Unique.
Yeah.
My thing, though, is that according to the cops, he had knowledge of some of every crime that only the killer would have. That he gave up in confession when he was talking. Yeah, he knew shit about, and the footprints. That's the other thing that they knew. There were some consistencies, caliber of weapon used in the shootings, and those Avia sneaker prints that were everywhere. That were everywhere, and the rarity of that sneaker print. Okay,
yeah.
There were some inconsistencies, with witness descriptions. So one woman said he had blonde hair and blue eyes. The guy that did it, right? Yeah, I know. There are some inconsistencies or some really tight timing windows from where we knew he was here, and then we also think he was here, right? And is it possible there's some of that, and then the other thing is when he was caught, the attack stopped completely.
That's the biggest thing.
That's the
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the biggest thing.
So then we get into Dante. This was cool. I did not know, obviously, as we all know, I have not read Dante at all, as our listener pointed out. But and so I didn't know what to expect in the first, in the actual season of this, and I certainly didn't know what to expect here. But this was really cool, the in-between.
The purgatory, where you're purged of your sins. Yeah.
Like a world suspended between sin and salvation. It was a land of hope, yet also of burden.
Right.
I mean, this resonated a little bit because isn't that kind of life?
Yes.
Like,
That's
it's,
what I'm
yes,
saying.
you have hope, but it's also life is a huge burden. And it's, I just was like, this is, and then Virgil says, it's the journey of every soul, my friend, to struggle, to rise, to become worthy. Now, the to become worthy part doesn't resonate with me because I don't believe in heaven or how,
right. He's speaking of the eternal judgment, right? The divine judgment, right? To become worthy. Yeah.
But like, it's that line, it was a land of hope, yet also of burden. Yeah. That's like every day. That's life. Oh,
and we all know in some small way how that feels to know that, like when I was working at the hotel, like an awful, busy, crazy night where shit's popping off from the first second you step on the property, right? You're like, this night's going to come to an end.
Yep.
Like it's going to be okay. I can get through this. and come out and on the other end stronger and better with a little money in my pocket, and I'll sleep well and I can pay my bills, right? So because you know that there's that's the difference between the Inferno and Purgatorio, is that there's an end. There is a purpose. You're not here forever. Okay. And so those first 3 or 4 terraces that we covered, and I'll do the rest in the next episode. The one thing is that they're all very, very hopeful that there's a way out. There's a way through it. Yeah. And that lifted my spirits.
Yeah,
it honestly
did.
It really lifted my spirits. Right. Researching it.
Well, compared to the other stuff
and recording
where they're
like,
head first in a river of shit or whatever, like,
frozen in ice without even the ability to mourn. What?
That was really some of that was, I know we talked about it pretty lightly, but some of that was really dark.
Boiling in a river of blood. Okay.
Yeah.
What? I know. And then here you are. Okay. Yes, your eyelids are sewn shut with iron thread. That's not cool. But you learn to see without seeing, to appreciate.
Yes.
Right?
And like a lot of this I thought was, so their eyes were sewn shut with iron thread because of envy. They couldn't see their own blessings. And I heard that and I immediately thought, well, that's so many people today. Like most people, how like the big things like practice gratitude and wake up and write 3 things you're grateful for. And, they're like, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare yourself to other people and what other people have. And just be grateful, be grateful, be grateful. And that, it isn't the exact same thing, but that's kind of like what it reminded me of. Like envy is wanting what other people have, not being grateful for what you have.
Of course.
And so I felt like a lot of this really applied or was applicable, in my opinion, to life.
It's today. Much more accessible. And Dante is such a good proxy. He's such a good proxy for the reader, because every time we take a little aside to him going, oh, wow, I'm going to make a vow to stop envying what other people have, or I'm going to leave those thoughts behind, or I'm going to leave this behind, or I don't want to stick around in sloth because, man, it looks really comfortable, but no one there is moving forward, right? This isn't where we want to stay. Yeah.
I really liked, I wish not for my own joys, but for the ruin of others. I thought their happiness diminished my own, which is so, I mean, I literally, this is going to sound so stupid to say, but if I could tell you how many dumb Instagram, social media videos I've seen of people being like, there's enough happy, we can all be happy. My happiness, if this person wins, it doesn't mean I have to lose, and blah, that's such a concept that people seem to struggle with today, that they can't, it's hard to be happy for other people. Envy, I guess, is really the easiest way to say it. So again, just super applicable to today. And then the biggest one for me, where I was like, oh, I so relate to this, because it is my personal biggest issue, is the time. Like needing more, feeling like time is just going, and needing more time and not wanting to waste time. Yeah. And I don't have necessarily a good example, but if I'll, I don't know. And it's not wasting time for work. It's wasting time with doing things that I love, being with my animals, being with Mark, being with my family, friends, stuff like that. And if for some reason I can't, or something gets in the way of that, it very much upsets me, because I feel like I'm missing out on these precious moments. And there's only so many of them. Yep. We only have so many moments here. Yep. But this is one of my favorite things that was said. In life, they wasted time, and now time weighs upon them. A young man sighed. I thought there was always more time, he admitted. I waited for a sign for the perfect moment, but there never is a perfect moment. Only the one you take.
We take.
Yeah. I love it. I'm going to get that tattooed on my arm.
There is no perfect moment. Only the one you take. That's it.
I mean, really impactful. And so, yes, accessible. You said accessible before. That is the perfect way to describe, I feel like, this Dante in this episode, because I felt like I can relate to all of this. I understand all of it. And let's see, what questions did I write down for you? Do you think that the courtroom, like the media frenzy, the kind of like the performance of the lawyers was like its own kind of purgatory? Like no one was really moving forward. Everyone's carrying some kind of weight. But I wrote that down and then I went back through this. I actually don't think so because they were moving forward. But
I think that definitely the prosecution and the defense carrying massive weights.
Yeah.
Especially the prosecution, right? Like the pressure on that guy, the burden on that guy. He was carrying the redemption of a city. He needed to show the city that the system works, that we can catch people, we can prosecute people, we can put them away. You're safe.
Right.
The citizenry is safe because the taxes you pay go to talented people who will do their jobs and who are well trained and will keep you safe. And that's a huge burden coming out of this 18 months of hell. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a huge burden.
Yeah. Huge burden. That they carried very, very well, by the way.
So now we're back in the courtroom where he walks in and shows his pentagram. Like, did he do that to just to stir things up or to be memorable?
You'll see. We'll get into some of his open statements in the next episode.
Okay.
And some of them, I'm telling you, he had to have a writer. It's LA. I'm sure he had a ghostwriter because some of the shit that he was saying was profound.
So
it was
funny.
Really profound. Yeah.
So funny.
And scary.
How did they not have metal detectors from the beginning? That's wild to me. That like they didn't start with metal detectors. That was something
time. We weren't gun nuts 40 years ago. We weren't. I know.
The fact that the jurors were afraid for their lives, like,
yeah,
could they have said no? Like, could they be like, "Fuck no, I'm not doing this. Goodbye." I mean, I would have been halfway to Canada.
I bet a lot of them did, but it was the double-edged sword for the prosecution, right? Because their most effective points were also the most terrifying for the jury. Okay, like the brutality and the horrific nature of his crimes was what was most likely to put him away, but it was also the most likely to inspire the defendant to scare the fuck out of the jury and to maybe kill some of them, right? So we could get a hung jury or a mistrial and avoid the gas chamber, right? So it was a really delicate balance that Halpin had to find, and he wasn't always successful. Some of the stuff he just had to say it. Some of the stuff you couldn't hold back. Yes, he attacked a 16-year-old girl with a tire iron while she slept. That's it. Yes, he has an extensive network of criminal accomplices less than a mile from where we're sitting in this courtroom. Okay, he does. That's just true. Right. Yeah, that's really scary.
Were they provided any type of protection, like bodyguards or anything, security to get them to and from?
I'm sure there was security where they were sequestered. Yeah, and you know they were driven in a van.
Okay. God. Well, I mean, I know we're not there yet, but obviously the security wasn't that great.
Yeah.
Because someone was murdered. But so he's laughing like during some of the most terrible parts of the trial. Like why would he do that? Because isn't that going to hurt his case? And he seems to be taking the advice of whoever is giving it to him, his stylist, his lawyer, whoever, about like what to wear. You know, what to wear, how to walk, what to do this. And then now he's going to laugh when they're describing these horrific things.
Why do you think he would do that? Let's say he was coached to do that. What would the reason be?
Insanity? To think that he's insane?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
80% of jurors make up their minds after the opening statement. To me, I was like, that's it. Like, I already feel like juries are just not an accurate form of justice. I don't know what the alternative is. Obviously, there isn't one because we still use juries. But then hearing that, I was like, so what the fuck is the point of the whole trial? If 80% of them, I mean, I guess the whole trial is for the 20% who haven't decided. But if you've made up your mind after the opening statement and then you just sit there and doodle in your notebook, Like, I mean, you know?
Well, hold on. But listen, it's not as terrible as you think, because generally you need a unanimous verdict. Okay. And so just because 80% of them have made up their mind one way or the other, that's still not an acquittal
That's true.
right, or a whatever the other word is
Right.
that I'm conviction, excuse me. Um, so, but that is a big number. That is a big number, and that is also, I think, even more importantly, it tells you the power of the opening statement and how
No kidding.
you gotta fucking nail it. You gotta
Oh
nail
my
it.
gosh. Is
Yeah.
there any footage, were cameras allowed in the courtroom?
Yeah,
Like
there's
video
some.
cameras, and there's footage of the actual trial?
Yeah,
Oh my god, I have to look that up after we get
yeah.
off.
You can see him in court being a lunatic. You can hear some of his statements. You can see how suave and his sunglasses and his suit with no tie with the open collar. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was working it. He was working it. Yeah. We're also going to get into hybristophilia in the next episode. Yeah.
Hybristophilia
Yes.
is what?
That is a an attraction to
Criminals.
to killers. Yeah.
Good. I cannot wait to hear about that because I find it so weird. So weird. I mean, no judgment. Like, if you wanna fall in love with somebody
No,
in prison for life, like, go for it.
I
Good for
don't.
you. Everybody
I
needs
don't.
somebody. But
Yeah, I don't.
also, weird.
I'm not going to
I
kink
don't
shame.
get it.
I don't kink shame. Listen, some
No,
girls,
yeah, same.
some people like cops, right? Some people like,
That's
you
true.
know,
Firefighters.
firemen,
Yeah.
right? Military uniforms, whatever.
Yeah.
Some people like, I don't know. And
Yeah. I can understand the attraction because it's like, oh, it's dangerous and whatnot. But, like, if they're in prison for life, like, what's the point? What are you doing? I guess you get to live your own life and have somebody to talk on the phone with? I don't know.
you get conjugal visits every now and then.
Did Ramirez?
You'll see.
Okay, fine. Um, so this did confuse me a little bit.
Okay.
Like, I really had to think about it, and I probably shouldn't admit that, but, like, saying that the death penalty, you described it as like the jury would then hang on every word, and just like
Right.
my first listen through, I was like, well, like, why? Because I feel like if I hear that there's like they're going for the death penalty, then I am scrutinizing everything you say because I don't want to say guilty unless I am 1,000% sure.
That's the point.
But, like, yeah, I mean, I guess that is good. They're paying attention to every word, but I almost thought of it like I would be really, like, scrutinizing every word, like, does that make sense?
See,
Is that true?
it makes sense if you're as confident and as competent a lawyer as Halpin was, and
Okay.
you're giving him irrefutable. Some of the evidence will be circumstantial, sure. A lot of it is, forensic evidence. A lot of it is, witness testimony and all that, right? And if you're like, listen, we might kill a motherfucker here, okay? So let's make sure that we get everything right. Okay.
Yeah.
We're together on this. I don't take it lightly. Taking a man's life, you don't take it lightly, right? So let's just, and then the other side, it's like this dog and pony show. It could have been this guy, it could have been him, could have been whatever, blah, blah, blah. So it's just not that it was less serious, but it was just less personal, I guess, is what these studies of jurors in capital cases would say, right? Like because this isn't just me making shit up. This is like they talk to jurors in interviews afterwards, and they're like, okay, so tell us how you felt about the prosecuting attorney. Well, listen, as soon as he's reminded us that this is a death penalty case, everyone kind of straightens up and leans in. Okay,
Right.
great. Like you can see the body language,
Right.
and a good prosecutor knows that and wields it, sparingly but powerfully.
Also, there's people who get the death penalty who have been sitting on death row for 30 years.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is hard to so yes, you're getting the death penalty, but there's a good chance you're going to die before you ever make it there. Just of natural causes or getting shivved,
And that's also true. It's still an emotional burden for a juror to say yes.
You do believe in the death penalty? You don't?
I
I feel
do.
like I've asked. You do. Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
164 witnesses. Jesus.
Yeah. But listen, not all witnesses who witnessed the crime, but like witnesses that were called in, like witness for the defense. Like, okay, you're a specialist on ballistics or on
Right.
firearms or on, you're a sketch artist or you know about sneaker prints or you know
You
about,
work at a pawn shop. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you're a serial killer specialist or whatever. Like
Yeah.
164 people came
Okay.
in. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, let's see. Just that he was mocking his victims.
Oof.
Uh, and then 8 months. I wrote that down a bunch of times. I just like can't imagine being sequestered and like having to go to a courtroom for 8 months. And what's happening? Like Ramirez is obviously in jail for this time, for this whole trial, but like, so he's not able to do drugs, presumably. Like, I know that you can get drugs in jail, but like,
Yeah,
he's not doing drugs as freely as he was before.
true.
And he's not being able to murder.
True.
And so, like, what's happening to him? Is it, because it seemed like such an urgency, his murdering, his drug use. It was like
Yeah.
so urgent for him to be
Hopefully
doing.
he was suffering just as a prisoner in a fucking cage. That's what I hope.
Yes, hopefully. But I almost wondered, like, is he becoming more like clear-headed? Is he like becoming more
That's
of
a
like
good
a
question.
normal person almost?
He definitely
Because
was. Obviously, there's no footage of him in his disease as a murdering lunatic. Okay.
right,
And
right,
his defense was very sure that we saw the best of the version that they wanted us to see. Okay.
right.
Cleaned up, charismatic, making these statements of his. And some other guy did it. He's obviously a lunatic. He doesn't have the mental capacity to pull off this crime spree. He's not some master criminal, but and all
Good
of it.
defense.
And but it's like a shotgun defense. Like just spray the wall and let's see if anybody
See what
believes any
sticks.
of it. And they
Yes.
never did. Yeah.
Um, okay. Phyllis.
Mm.
I mean, I know you said it in the beginning, so of course the whole episode I'm like murder because I didn't know anything of this.
Yeah.
And so I was like, a murder screwed this up, like impacted this. How? What? And then the whole time I'm thinking as I'm listening, oh my God, it would suck to be a juror. I wouldn't do it. I would run away. This would be terrifying. I'd be scared for my life. And then, somebody gets murdered.
Yeah.
Like murdered.
Yeah. And everyone thought it was Ramirez. Everyone on the jury.
Well, I mean, of course.
Everybody thought that, obviously he didn't do it himself, but that he had ordered it, that he had orchestrated it from behind bars as a sign, as a little, hey, any of you could be next.
Well, yes, and I would have been sneaking out the window wherever they were keeping us and running away in the sewers to get out of there and be far, far away the second that I heard that she was murdered. So we didn't learn much else about this.
No, you'll learn about it.
Okay.
On Wednesday. Yeah.
So, but Ramirez didn't do this then, is what we're to understand, perhaps.
Why don't you put your patience cap on?
Jeez. I don't have any patience. Come on. What was the biggest thing that you left out of this bonus episode that you wish you could have put in?
I wish I had more information on the jurors. Or like
yeah, I'm interested by that.
Like the cross section of men versus women, racially, all that. All I kept reading was that it was a very diverse jury that reflected the society, in which the crimes were committed. So I'm assuming it's white, black, brown, Asian, old, young, rich, poor, right? Because that's literally who he killed.
Yeah, that's I mean? Everyone.
Yeah. So, but I wish I knew a little bit more about that. And what else? And the other thing, which was great, which I really respected him, was Halpin was there's not much about him out there. He didn't give interviews. No, he's one of these guys. Like, I don't give a shit about any of that. I'm here to put bad guys away on behalf of the city of Los Angeles. That's it.
Good for
That's it.
him.
Yeah, I
It
know.
would be interesting to know more about him. I think, like,
Yeah.
I'm interested in the personal lives of everybody involved.
Yeah, but, Gil Garcetti was the front-facing kinda guy. He was handling all of the news conferences
Media.
and all that. Yeah, and so there's more on him in the next episode. Uh, the trial concludes. And then there's the post-trial world where I'll squeeze another episode or two out of this. Yeah.
Oh, I'm interested to hear about that. I don't know anything. So, okay, so my closing question for you is,
Yes.
do you think that we as a society
Mm.
kind of like need crazy monster scary people like Ramirez so that we have something to point at and be like, that's evil, and
Mm.
then we don't feel as bad about like our own evils?
Wow. Oh man. Well, I don't think of a world where there isn't that. That seems pretty cool, right? Like a world without serial murderers,
Yeah, that would be nice.
That would be really great. But how would it, do you think then, is your question then, if all right, so let's switch it around. If there were a world without serial killers, would your question be then, are we as a society most likely, are our shortcomings going to be brought into more stark relief? Right. Well, at least I'm not that.
Yes, exactly.
Because I'm
Yes,
doing it.
yes.
Yeah, that's for someone smarter than me. Uh, I would say probably.
Ask your wife and get back to me.
Damn. I would say probably, because we are inherently, we compare ourselves.
Yeah, that's what Dante
Yeah.
talked about. Comparison and envy, and so I agree. I think so too. I think
There's
that
this great play by David Rabe called Hurly Burly. It was an okay movie in the late 90s. But it's about like three friends and their 30 something friends navigating cocaine 80s. And it's very, very dramatic. And this one guy, Phil, is just, he can't get his shit together. He can't get his shit together, right? And then there's Mickey, and then there's Eddie. Okay. And Mickey's kind of in the middle, and then Eddie is like who everybody wants to be like. And they keep Phil around. And no one can understand really why they keep Phil around. And then Mickey says, well, because no matter how bad Eddie gets, no matter how far down he goes temporarily, there's Phil looking up from the gutter in wide-eyed admiration.
yep,
Right. So there's always something worse
worse.
to make him feel okay when he becomes an asshole, and so, yeah, I think, no, it's a weird statement, but maybe bad guys are useful to keep us all
Yeah,
a little happier.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a good
And
question.
I think there's less of them today because can you imagine if there were cell phones? Like Ramirez wouldn't have it wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like
Wouldn't have
you
lasted.
can't
Yeah.
go around murdering people like when he's going around the car with that woman, the VW, and
Someone would have gone by and like, what's that?
right, exactly.
I
Like
was in
he
New
would have
York.
been
I was in
done.
New York 3 nights ago. I was in New York 3 nights ago. I'm on like 44th, just like a half a block north of Times Square. Okay. I'm going to a dinner meeting, and walking past me, right, are two businessmen about my age. One guy is fucking wasted. Okay. Can barely walk. Okay. And his friend, oh man, is saving his life, saying, okay, 2 more blocks. You're almost at the hotel. And the guy goes, this is my hotel. And his buddy's like, this is not your hotel. This is nowhere near your hotel. We got to keep going. We got to. And the guy's like, no. And he tries to walk in, and security won't let him in. And he's not belligerent, but he's just insistent that he's right. And it's so bad. And he kind of pulls away from his friend and walks face first into a light pole and falls back, whack, cracks his head. And he's like, and his shit goes flying everywhere. His wallet, his phone, his glasses, his fucking passport, like everything, just all around him. It's like he exploded. Is what okay, right? And his friend is like trying to pick up his stuff, and I see him. I've been that guy. Okay, we've all been, okay. So I go up and I check him, see if he's bleeding, and he's not. And at the same time as all this is happening, there's a group of like 15 20 somethings who all they do is they whip out their phones and they're going, whoa, no. And I was
it's so annoying.
So happy that I'm Gen X because I'm like, help the drunk guy, help him get off the street. Okay. So I help him up and I got to like hug him just to like hold him up. And his friend's like, thank you. I'm like, it's okay. And I'm talking and I get the guy and I grab him by the face. I'm like, listen, this is your friend. You stay on his hip. He will get you home. You need to get out of here. Just go. This is what you promise. He goes, okay, man. Okay. Oh, I think I'm hurt. I'm like, just get home with this guy. And everyone just, I'm probably in some video somewhere.
Oh, sure you are.
Instagram.
How grateful. Right. But how grateful are you that didn't exist when you were that guy? Because I've been that girl and I don't want any footage of that.
Like the great Yankee Hall of Famer, Derek Jeter. They did a great documentary on him. Okay. And he came up like early 90s. They won all these World Series, right? He retired in like 2009. And he said very candidly, he said, if there were cell phone cameras, my first 5-10 years in the league, he goes,
canceled.
Wouldn't have worked out.
Done. No, for sure.
Not fucking worked out. Yeah. Yes. And everyone's like, shit. He goes, nothing criminal, but stuff with girls. Stuff with drinking.
Oh my God.
Right? Yeah.
Oh, 100%. When I think back to like 20 to 30, I guess, like, oh my God. If there had been easily accessible, we had like cameras and disposable cameras.
But everyone could see it. Right?
Oh,
it's not like you could pretend you're making a call and they're recording you off to the right.
Yeah, I couldn't have survived. I would have not made it, or I would have been a very different person very quickly. I would have like never done anything.
And that's what I tell my girls. Everything you post, it's nobody's business.
You post everything you do, everything you say in like a group, unless you're with people that you really know and trust. And as a teenager, you can't trust anybody.
Listen to this. One of my kids, they were supposed to be in Atlanta for a volleyball tournament. Okay, right. My oldest. Okay. 3 days before we were set to leave, she'd been not feeling well for 3 days before that. Okay. Right. Fever breaks. We're like, okay, go to the hospital. Go to the doctor. And they test her for COVID and for flu and for bronchitis and for like everything. Okay. Right. Next morning, I'm going through security to get on a plane in New York. The doctor's office calls me and says, okay, she's positive for COVID. She's positive for with some kind of flu. So we're like, but they said, but she doesn't have any symptoms anymore. Right. So she's probably not contagious anymore. Give it a couple of days, a day or two, and she's good to go back to school. They were supposed to leave 2 days later for Atlanta. My youngest just goes on to Snap and says, my sister, COVID and this. Other girls on her volleyball team read it. It gets to these maniac volleyball moms. They're like, she can't go to Atlanta.
I totally believe it.
And you cancel the trip.
Of course. And that's like such a small, like my sister's sick. It's like no big deal. Like, why would she even think about not posting that or not saying that?
I felt like Corleone in The Godfather. Don't talk about family business with anybody outside the family ever.
Oh, it would be terrifying to have teenagers now. I am impressed that you still have you're not more gray, honestly.
Yeah, I could be. I might be. It might be coming soon.
Your kids are smart though. They're smart. I feel like anybody who is even just like a modicum less smart than them is screwed completely.
There was a boy at the house the other night.
Oh
yeah.
I'm assuming with older one.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like dating?
I don't want to talk about it. I know. I really don't want to talk about it. So let's end this now. Thank you for listening, everybody. And you can show your appreciation for Margot's wonderful input by following her show, Death by Southwest, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the episode, consider sharing it with a friend and go to Apple or Spotify, rate, review, follow the show. Every little bit helps. We really appreciate it. Margot, I hope that we could do this again next week with the second bonus.
Yep.
And anything coming up on Death by Southwest you want to share?
No, just crime, just true crime, more true crime. We just passed our 100th episode, and so yeah,
amazing. Congratulations.
Going strong. Thank you.
Any podcasters out there know how how hard it is to get past episode 5, let alone
Yeah,
episode 100.
right.
So, well done. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you. And until next time, stay safe out there.
Bye.